to this now. 5 senior City of Tshwane officials are on precautionary suspension for the failed Rooiwal Wastewater Treatment Works contract. Follows a disciplinary process where they were found guilty of one of the 4 charges against them. Meanwhile, the ANC in Tshwane Metro has since accused Executive Mayor Cilliers Brink of being on a witch hunt. For more on this conversation, we're joined now by Tshwane ANC Secretary George Matjila. Good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on. So an internal investigation would have ensued, a process that was instituted by the Metro itself, and it came out with a particular finding. Now the Metro is dissatisfied with that particular finding, and they're saying they're taking this to the Labour Court. What are you objecting to then?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mdluli and your viewers. I think, as you have indicated, the city has established a process, and it's something that they need to respect. I mean, all of a sudden, they are now changing the goalpost, and our view is that it's very problematic. It seems to be targeting black professionals, because you can't set up a process and you also spend the taxpayers' money, and at the end of the day you want to dispute yourself because it's your own process. Well, again, our view is that it's electioneering. I mean, DA, for the longest period of time, there are a number of corrupt cases that whenever they read their head, they just looked the other way. So all of a sudden, they establish a process. A process says, indeed, there are minor things that happened, and they recommend that the officials should be suspended for a period of a month, and a 1-month salary should be docked. But they decide to do something else. So we are saying that cannot be tolerated.
So a 290 million tender was awarded irregularly from what we are seeing, hence the 4 charges. Do you think a 30-day suspension and salary dock would be enough for the kind of transgressions that are said to have taken place here?
Well, for us, it's not about a 1 month or a 30-day salary dock. It's about what the law firm that has been appointed has been able to establish as to whether there was corruption that was done or not. I mean, if there was corruption, I mean, as the ANC, we are not supporting corruption. We would obviously call for very serious steps to be taken against those officials. But where injustice is, it's an ugly head. As the ANC, we are inviting ourselves into a boxing ring in defense of people who have not been found guilty for any wrongdoing. So you can't say because a certain amount of money has been spent on the project, and even if the investigations are not finding any wrongdoing on the side of the officials, you just want to put their back against the wall. No, it does not work like that.
Yeah. If the shoe was on the other foot, I mean, if, for example, in the previous instance when we spoke to you, the city had decided to serve dismissal letters to protesting workers, right? They took that matter and they challenged it, and it was taken to court, it was appealed, and so on and so forth. Is that not the same situation where an outcome can be certainly appealed in a court of law if one of the 2 parties is not satisfied with the outcome?
No, obviously, the city took a decision against the workers, and the workers took the city to court. So in this instance, it's something different. It's a process that was established by the city to check as to whether there was corruption committed or not. And the outcome was contrary to what the DA has wanted. So that should be respected. I think we are reading from the same page on this one. It's a different ball game. in comparison to what you are talking about.
So, are you therefore not placing any faith in the court process, at least to provide finality and clarity to this matter?
No. We are not doubting any court process. What we are saying is that the DA itself established its own process within the city, paid a legal firm to make investigations. So that is their report. So how do they take their own report for review? Because it's their own report. I mean, a report that is yours cannot be taken for a review. What we are saying is that the DA from the onset, they had the malice intent. So their view, their position was that the report must only produce what they have wanted, not what the legal firm has established. So that's why we are having a problem as the ANC, and that should not in any way thought to be defending corruption.
Yeah.
Where corruption is committed, where there are findings about corruption, we are going to call for harsher sentence as the ANC. So in this case, we are saying the DA is electioneering. We are saying the DA is targeting black professionals, and we can't allow that to happen. I mean, you would know that historically they've been doing that, and we can't fold arms and stay idle and say no, it's fine because it does not affect us. We are in that particular caucus to ensure that the justice prevails at all material times.
So in that caucus, I mean, let's get a sense of where you are and if you've formulated a particular view. Are you in agreement that there was gross negligence? Are you in agreement that there was dereliction of duty? Are you in agreement that there was a breach of legislation, policies, and a code of conduct by particular officials in the city?
Remember, Mr. Mjuli, we are not the legal or technical experts. So there was a view that there was wrongdoing, and a legal firm has been appointed to probe that. So upon the probing of such, there were findings that were made. So a layman cannot speak against what the legal experts are saying. So it will be wrong of ourselves to say, to speak against the legal findings. When we have supported the appointment of a legal firm that would have probed what we suspected as corruption, because for us it was suspect that there's corruption committed, and as such, a legal firm was appointed.
Yeah. Irrespective of the individuals, the black professionals aside, I'm saying as members of council, when you look, for example, at the preferred charges that the company, Blackhead Consulting, would have been taken to the next step, for example, or next stage of their adjudication, even though they were not registered with the CIDB, they were taken through to the next stage. They didn't have the required CIBD qualification of 9CE, of 9ME. The independent adjudicators did not really handle themselves well there. The city already, for example, had a company appointed, and they went on to try and appoint another company, costing the city 12 million. Wrong specifications were used. I mean, when you look at that particular picture, what conclusion do you draw?
Well, it will be very difficult for us to arrive at a particular conclusion. As I've indicated, Mr. Mjuli, that upon suspicion that there might have been commission of fraudulent processes and so forth, a legal firm, a competent legal firm was appointed to probe as to whether our suspicion was correct or not. And since there's a report which speaks contrary to what we would have suspected, that would be respected. Because if, for instance, you appoint a legal firm, but when they produce a certain outcome that does not favor what you would have loved. That is malice intent. It means you were not honest in the first instance when you appointed a legal firm to probe. You could have on your own said, no, without any investigation, arrive at the view that says these people are wrong. But in a constitutional democracy, things does not work like that. Hence, we have subjected the matter into an investigation. So once the investigation is done and it says a person is not found guilty, you can't therefore say, no, there are some rumors, people saying this and that and so forth. So that's where we are. So our suspicion is that there are some people who are being targeted without defending them. Because where corruption has been committed will not be in defense. The DA itself has a history of targeting black professionals and so forth. Even Matjila himself, as a city manager, I mean, if you do a background check, you'll realize that where he comes from, there are a number of black officials who fell victim of him. So we are very much concerned about that.
I'm trying to establish the position of the ANC caucus following the independent investigation. Are you then saying to us that based on the outcomes of this independent investigation, your suspicions of corruption have been dealt with? You no longer are questioning how this particular tender would have been awarded. You are satisfied that an independent process was entered into, it came back, it said there was one area, I'm not quite sure which charge actually would have been preferred, that they found them wrong on, and that's enough. You are fine and you accept that your suspicions of corruption have been addressed.
But Mr. Mdluli, if a person has gone through processes of investigation and an outcome is produced, and an outcome speaks contrary to what you suspected initially, what else would you want? I mean, outside targeting some certain individuals? Because if there was an investigation, because we are not, previously all of us, we were very convinced that there are some wrongdoings and so on. Hence, we supported the cause to appoint a legal firm. And an independent legal firm has been appointed. And they have produced outcome results. So what else do we want if we can't subject ourselves to the outcome that is there?
So I'm just saying, you would know in the city of Tshwane, Glad Africa would have been investigated by various bodies, from internal to external and so on and so forth, because the first initial outcome, certain parties were dissatisfied with that, had to move to the next process. Hence, I'm asking, just because one body would have found that there is no corruption, as you put it, then is that the end of it? Would you, as the ANC caucus, not be interested in pursuing this further and maybe getting another body to look at it?
Well, what we are raising is a principal issue. The DA, unlike other institutions, it's an organization that is known to have historically have issues that relate to discrimination and targeting of black professionals. So when we deal with them, we are very cautious. We are very vigilant, because we are not dealing with people who would have been fair as they conduct their business and so on. Hence, we are very much concerned. The process can proceed if it's the view of majority of the people, but you are dealing with the Democratic Alliance, where some of the issues are being swept under the carpet. But on this one, and on the eve of the elections, they would want to come up strong as a party that is supporting clean governance, something that we know that is not true. So that's our concern as the African National Congress.
Appreciate your time, George Matjila. Thank you very much for coming on, engaging us this evening. ANC Tshwane Secretary there, George Matjila.